India and the Czech Republic have close relationship. There have been high-level engagements in the past. We saw the visit from Czech Republic to vibrant Gujarat, and now we have with us the Czech Foreign Minister. So welcome to WION, and it's a pleasure to speak to you again. My first question to you is about the larger relationship. How do you see the trajectory of this relationship going forward?
First of all, hello and thank you for having me. And the relationship is thriving. And there was, in the last 2 years, set of high-level visit between Czechia and India, which shows how good the relationship is. It's not only on a level of Ministers of Foreign Affairs. It was the business delegation led by our Ministry of Trade and Industry. It was the visit of Prime Minister here in India, and the signing of a memorandum on technological and scientific cooperation, and there will be much more. Our common trade is growing. We now have a trade in terms of 4 billion USD. It's more 10 times than many years ago. So this is a very good thing, and we are on a good path.
Mm-hmm. And where do you see the economic cooperation going forward between these two countries? India is keen to have a larger FTA as well with the European Union. What's your view on that?
Definitely, we need to continue working on that and be successful with it one day.
Mm-hmm. And the economic cooperation between the two countries bilaterally, we saw the representation from Czech Republic during India's Vibrant Gujarat, which is one of the key flagship program of the Indian government and the state government as well.
So our companies are active in many sectors. It's automotive, it's a sector of tourism, it's a sector of defense, which is now a new area of cooperation, and it's something which is very promising. And we don't want to sell. We want to invest. We want to make a technological transfer. As it is aligned with the strategy of India to be working on internal growth.
Mm-hmm. So I have with me the security strategy of the Czech Republic here. If you can highlight one of the key focus areas in this security strategy, and where does India and Asia figures in this security strategy?
So the security strategy basically starts with description of the environment in which we live, and the situation is not easy. The world is going into something which I describe as a world of global confrontation. And in such a world, you need to have a friends, and we want to have India as one of those friends.
Mm-hmm. On India aspect, defense has been another key area of cooperation. Any elements where we are looking at? Are you looking at buying from India or co-production with India, which India has been focusing on?
So it depends on companies, on militaries, what they are procure. But definitely we have a lot of know-how which we are willing to, for example, share in the terms that if you want to build a factory which produce something, then we also do this technological transfer. So not everything can be transferred in terms of military equipment. Some high-level things will be always protected, but we are also willing to discuss the trade, because India is a very important partner for them.
Mm-hmm. So there are a few irritants as well in the relationship. Nikhil Gupta case is one such example. What's the current status of this case in your country?
So we have a division of labor in Czechia as well. There is a division of labor in India. Mm-hmm. So we have an independent judicial system which is dealing with this case. Politicians are not touching that, and I don't see that much as an irritant actually.
Mm-hmm. And do you think that this case can have an impact on the wider relationship between the two countries?
Honestly, I haven't seen that this would have impact. I think the respect to independent and free judicial system is a key element of the whole thing, and I hope that the judicial system will deal with the cause.
Mm-hmm. But has it been a part of conversation between the two sides, the Indian government and the Czech government, part of ongoing cooperation or conversation over this particular issue?
I'm not aware of such a conversations.
Mm-hmm. So my other aspect is on the international dimension. There is a conflict going on in Ukraine. How has it impacted larger European security? It will be 2 years later. In fact, tomorrow it will be 2 years. What's your assessment of the ongoing situation in Ukraine?
First of all, we need to call it the right name. It's not a conflict in Ukraine. It's a Russia's imperialistic war against Europe, which is now materializing in Ukraine, because Putin decided that he will attack Ukraine, and he is not recognizing its internationally recognized borders. If Ukraine falls, if we are not able to support Ukraine and the principles of international law, it will be very easy. He will continue. It will snowball. We know this from history. So I know 2 years of war is a long time. I don't want any imperialistic powers in the world to try to colonize other countries. And Putin is trying to colonize Ukraine. It's a very clear case. He swallowed Crimea and he swallowed part of eastern territories of Ukraine, unanimously proclaiming that part of the Russian Federation, which is absurd. You cannot take a soldiers, go somewhere and say, this is mine. We are not living in such a world anymore, and I don't want to live in a world anymore. So I hope that this message will spread across as much as possible. And until that, Czechia is very much affected by Russia's imperialistic war against Ukraine. It is the high energy prices. It is the war of food even and things like that. We have 500,000 war refugees in a 10 million country. You know, look at the scale. So we are very much affected.
Mm-hmm. And how is your country supporting Ukraine?
We are supporting Ukraine in all aspects you can imagine. We are supporting Ukraine politically in international forums like in the EU, in NATO, in the UN. We are supporting Ukraine by sending humanitarian aid. We are sending military supplies. We are participating on the programs in the EU, which are, through macrofinancial aid, are stabilizing the budget of Ukraine. So it's a complex help because Ukraine's security is Czechia's security. It's European security.
Mm-hmm. So moving from Europe to Asia, in Asia we have also seen similar cases. China is an example of it. It has been very assertive, aggressive with countries in the region, including with India. In fact, your security strategy mentions China several times as well. So if you can talk about Chinese aggressive actions in the region.
So our security strategy portrays China as a challenge and opportunity, and it depends in which kind of field we are talking about China. And definitely we want to keep China in a game as much as possible, and we don't want to see any kind of escalation in the region, because we absolutely understand that any kind of escalation in the region has a profound impact on Europe and on Czechia. Look what simple elements of Houthis shooting on ships in Red Sea is the impact on a global trade between Asia and Europe. And ships need to take a more longer route, 15-day route. It's more costly and slower. Any kind of military escalation in Taiwan Strait would have a profound impact on maritime trade and on production of microchips, and therefore on the whole economy globally. So we need to be in a dialogue with China, and we need to be looking for ways how to not reach to that point. But we need to be prepared that if something happens, that we are ready.
Mm-hmm. So, since you mentioned about the Red Sea crisis, I'll come to that bit. But India, during its G20 presidency, announced with other countries the India, West Asia and the Europe corridor, the Middle East corridor. What's your assessment about this connectivity project, and do you think that this connectivity project will be impacted by the ongoing conflict in West Asia, the Israel-Hamas conflict which is underway?
So this corridor is dependent on physical security. And if you have an actor like Iran, which is supporting actively many militias in the region, and you basically name that, this physical security disappears. So we should be very, very aware, and we need to build up a coalition which will be stabilizing this region, because without the route, you cannot have a corridor.
Mm-hmm. And your assessment about the conflict, what's your country's stance on the Israel-Gaza conflict and the Red Sea crisis, how it impacts you?
It impacts us indirectly through the curb on maritime trade. Of course, Israel has the right to self-defend, but also the international humanitarian law needs to be abided. So we have a very principled position on that.
So moving back to the India bit, there are areas like educational cooperation and cultural cooperation. If you can elaborate what one can expect in near future.
So I give you one example what is already happening between Czechia and India. It's the Mařík Center of Artificial Intelligence, Robotics and Cybernetics. It's a basically new scientific institution which is now being built at NIMS University in Jaipur. We are also inviting students from India to Czechia. And I give you two numbers. It was a few years ago when there was only 350 Indian students in Prague, and now it's almost 2,000. And it's very important to know that also our embassy here offers language courses, for example. So we have a very thriving and good cooperation also in this field.
And science and technology as well?
Yes, definitely. This is a part of that. And since we have this memorandum, we need to be looking for opportunities how to fulfill it.
So my perhaps second last question to you. How do you see the issues like the UNSC reforms? Your country has been backing India on several fronts, including the nuclear suppliers group as well, if you can elaborate on that.
So we are running for the non-permanent seat of the Security Council in the UN for term 32-33. And we fully support the reforms of Security Council because it needs to reflect the current world, not the world which was there 8 years ago.
Does that mean that you support India's bid for a reformed Security Council, India at the Security Council?
There is multiple ways how to do the reforms. Basically, India is always part of those schemes because of the size and the importance of this country. But you know, there are countries which are blocking it. But you have us on your side.
And how do you see India's G20 presidency, India as the voice of the global south, if you can comment on that?
Very successful presidency, very ambitious presidency, and I was happy to see this kind of leadership in the world.
On that note, thank you so much, sir, for speaking to WION.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure speaking to you, as always.